Hello, reporter room investigators. Come on in, come on in. I am glad to see you guys today. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me before I get started. Come on in. Yes or no? Yes? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, great. Come on in. Tell me where you're from. We have breaking news in the Bryan Kohberger case. Oh my goodness. So breaking news. Bryan Kohberger's defense team has filed a motion to delay his upcoming trial. Currently scheduled for the opening statements are currently scheduled for August 11th of 2025, and jury selection is supposed to begin July 30th. Now let's talk about why they want this delay. Let me grab this. All right. Make sure we're all looking at the same thing. Yep. Okay, great. Come on in. Tell me where you're from. And I am running a little bit early today, and I hope that's okay. But we just have breaking news. So I want you guys to have all the latest and greatest information on this channel. Okay. Just making sure I'm looking at the same one that you guys are. Okay. So Bryan Kohberger's attorneys are asking the judge to delay this. This is really huge, you guys. So come on in, tell me where you're from, and we're going to do our intros a little bit late today, but we're going to start with this breaking news. So his defense team has filed a formal motion to delay his upcoming capital punishment trial, currently scheduled for August of 2025. Now, they are arguing that proceeding as planned would violate Bryan Kohberger's constitutional rights to incomplete trial due to incomplete trial preparation. So we have already heard Ann Taylor complaining that she didn't have time to go through all the raw footage of the car video. We heard her try to get capital punishment removed because and the judge kind of called her out for taking another capital punishment case. But now she's saying that there's mounting discovery charges, and she's citing the recent media publicity that could prejudice the jury pool. So she's using the Dateline in an effort to delay. Again, is the judge going to grant this? So let's talk about this together. So let's go through this article. In the motion, the defense is citing that Bryan Kohberger's constitutional rights to a fair trial and effective legal counsel, emphasizing the heightened standards required in a capital punishment case. They argue that thousands of pages of evidence remain unexamined. I've already heard this from Ann Taylor, so this is not a shock. That key expert evaluations cannot yet be completed, and that a recent high-profile media coverage, okay, that's Dateline. We all know what that is, right? Including the Dateline NBC special and an upcoming book, risk tainting the jury. But I don't know really what's going to change. The Dateline NBC special is already out there, and the book is going to come out irregardless. Once the book comes out, is she then going to say that she has to delay it again because a book just got published? I mean, I don't know, you guys. Let me know what you think. The defense also warns that pushing forward without adequate preparation could increase the risk of reversible error. I think this is a shot across the bow, in my opinion, at this judge, because, of course, no judge wants to be reversed, a common issue in capital punishment cases. And they say, quote, this request is not made lightly. Now, she has successfully managed to delay this trial. I mean, we're coming up on over 2.5 years from when he was initially arrested. So she's already delayed this trial massively. She waived BK's right to a speedy trial. She filed for delay after delay. Then she wanted a venue change to Ada County. And now she wants another delay. This is like multiple motions that she's filed. But she's using the Dateline. We thought she might do this. She's using the Dateline NBC leak as another reason to do this. So we'll see what the judge decides. She writes, the request is not made lightly. Defense counsel has worked around the clock actively preparing for the trial since appointment to the case. filed all motions in a timely manner, complied with expert disclosure deadlines, and had expected to proceed on schedule. Well, that's not really true, though, is it? Because she's repeatedly asked for a delay. So she's tried everything. However, it has become clear that without additional time, the defense cannot complete review of the necessary discovery, meaningfully respond to all of the state's amended expert disclosures, and incorporate the information into effective defense, and finish critical sentencing phase investigations. While prompt administration of justice is important, both the state and Mr. Kohberger, to the state and Mr. Kohberger, the constitutional guarantee of a fair trial outweighs modest delay. And because the majority of the cases ending in capital punishment, I'm watching my words here, are later overturned for error, the public interest lies in ensuring a fair trial in the first instance. A continuance will ensure that Mr. Kohberger's fundamental and constitutional rights are honored, and that any verdict rendered rests in a fair and complete presentation of facts, not forced haste. And so we can read the full filing. So let's go through it. Let me make sure I'm not blocking your view. I'm going to move myself over. Come on in. Tell me where you're from. We have breaking news. If you haven't subscribed and hit the notification bell, please do, because it's just going to be more. Let's go through the filing together. So this is clearly filed by Ann Taylor, Alyssa Massoth, and Becca Barlow. So we have the hear ye comes now, Bryan Kohberger. We don't need to do that. So motion to continue. So the defense counsel, Bryan C. Kohberger, by and through attorneys of records, and hereby respectfully submits the following motion to continue due to the substantial amount of trial investigation and preparation still outstanding, as well as recent and forthcoming publicity that is highly prejudicial to the defense. And we're going to talk about who benefited the most from the Dateline NBC special in just a moment. So please stay with me. But let's just whip through this really quick. Any conviction and sentence resulting from a capital trial beginning in August of 2025 would be unconstitutionally imposed and therefore vulnerable to reversal on direct or collateral review. In making this motion, Mr. Kohberger relies on his right to be free from cruel and unusual punishment. So it's another bit, in my opinion, to delay the trial, but also please take capital punishment off the table. His right to due process, his right to a fair trial, his right to counsel, his right to present a defense, his right to confront witnesses, his right to a fair and reliable sentencing determination, and other rights safeguarded by the 5th, 6th, 8th, 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, Article 1, Sections 6, 7, 8, and 13 of the Idaho State Constitution. So she's got a table of contents here, y'all. She has a table of contents. So here's her argument. Let me grab a sip of water. This is what the defense is arguing. This court has an obligation. Just want to make sure we're all together here. Okay. Has an obligation to uphold Mr. Kohberger's constitutional rights by vacating the trial date because defense counsel needs additional time to review discovery and prepare for the complex merits and sentencing phases unique to capital punishment cases. This court has an obligation to enforce the constitutional rights of all persons, including prisoners. She's citing Brown versus Plata and Robb versus Connolly. And then let's just skip down here to, as detailed in this motion, moving forward with a capital trial in August will infringe upon Mr. Kohberger's constitutional rights as counsel requires more time to review discovery, complete investigations, and prepare for trial. But she's already gotten more time to do all these things. But okay, let's see. We'll see with how the judge responds. If he's going to keep this trial on track or if he's going to allow this Dateline NBC to derail it. And we're going to talk about the Dateline NBC special, who benefited the most from the Dateline NBC. We're going to talk about alternative suspects. We're going to talk about the leaker. We're going to talk about this glove that was found outside the 1122 King Road home. Is this going to be enough to create reasonable doubt? New information regarding Bryan Kohberger's parents, Mary Ann and Michael Kohberger, and why the Elantra didn't just simply park and go into the house. Why was it circling? So come on in. Tell me where you're from. My name is Jessica Della Davies, and I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. It's free, and it helps me out a lot. Like, share, leave a comment, and know that everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion. This video is for educational purposes only. Okay, so she continues. So this is the defense team argument, and we're going to talk about it, and how I'm going to just share with you how I think this is going to go. As detailed in the motion, moving forward with a capital trial in August will infringe upon Mr. Kohberger's constitutional rights as counsel requires more time. So more time, delay. That's the gist of what she wants. She's giving all of her reasons. And she said the elevated standard is essential because execution is the most irreversible and profound penalty. Indeed, quote, death is different. Ford versus Wainwright, emphasis added. When the state seeks capital punishment, I'm just going to watch my words here in case you have little ones in the room, it imposes an extraordinary burden upon the court itself and the defense counsel to ensure the fairness, accuracy, reliability of the trial and any subsequent sentencing proceeding. With a defendant's life at stake, the trial court must be, quote, particularly sensitive to ensure that every safeguard is observed. And she cites Gregg versus Georgia here, and must take, quote, extraordinary measures to ensure that a capital punishment sentence is reliably imposed rather than, quote, imposed out of whim, passion, prejudice, or mistake. So she's gotten everything that she's wanted with the other judge, Judge John Judge, until she moved over to this judge in Ada County, which was her choice. She wanted to move it because she said that they couldn't have it in Latah County because they couldn't find an impartial jury there. Now she wants to delay it because of the Dateline NBC episode and an upcoming book. But isn't it going to be worse after the book comes out? And who's to say that's going to be the last Dateline NBC episode? And we're going to talk about who benefited the most from the Dateline NBC episode. But the other thing I want to point out is the judge said that Ann Taylor made a choice. Ann Taylor made a choice to move the trial. She also made a choice to take on another capital punishment case while she's claiming that she doesn't have time for this case. And the judge wanted to know, well, if you don't have time to deal with this case, why would you take on a second capital punishment case? So I don't think he's that easily fooled, but we'll see. You know, she could get her way. She got her way quite a few times with the delay. This is the first time this judge has held everybody's feet to the fire that they're proceeding on time. And we'll see, what is this Dateline NBC going to derail the whole trial? And we're going to talk about who benefited that. So she talks about another judge and why why this is the correct thing to do. She cites other things. I'll link this for you in the description if you want to read it. But she said, continues, because proceeding to a capital trial prematurely is a decision that may lead to erroneous imposition of the ultimate sanction, this court must consider and assess this motion under a heightened standard of due process. So I'm not going to read out the whole thing because it's 40 pages long. I just wanted to go through the highlight. But what I will do is link this for you in the description below. So let me grab this really quick.
Big question for the prosecution to explain to the rest of us, specifically the jury, but some insight into his past may give us some clues. Turns out Kohberger knew how to use a knife. Bryan worked as a fish cutter. He was a fillet man when he was in high school, trained to cut and fillet raw fish. I know how to do it. Means you got to know how to use a knife. We'll see how Kohberger was.
This is Reporter Room, with Jessica Della Davies.
Okay, so lots of really interesting breaking news. Let me put up, there we go. Okay, on the Bryan Kohberger case. So let's go through. So what does this mean? Let's talk about what this means. Okay, so my sourcing on this is Fox News. And my sourcing on the other article was the Idaho News. It's idahonews.com. And that is one of the outlets that broke the story. But let's talk about this. Let me pull this up. And let's go through, what does this mean? I want to make sure we're all looking at the same thing. Okay, we are. Perfect. All right, so what does this mean? So this leak could lead to excluded evidence also, not just a delay. And my sourcing on this again is Fox News. You can see their logo right behind me. So by the Idaho-based attorney says that she believes that the judge will absolutely hold prosecutors and law enforcement accountable after sensitive information about Bryan Kohberger was leaked to, and we know it was leaked to, Dateline NBC. This TV episode aired on May 9th. A lot of us saw it. It featured new cell phone records, surveillance video, search records. Bryan Kohberger did some very creepy searches. And he is accused of doing away with Xana, Kaylee, Maddie, and Ethan inside their own home. He is innocent until proven guilty, but we are going to be talking about this case in terms of Bryan Kohberger because he is the one on trial and the one that's having all these motions filed on his behalf. So new information about the crimes were shared with NBC Dateline program, which included surveillance from a nearby home. Now, this house showed a car similar to BK's that was in the area of the 1122 King Road home several times before Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana were done away with. The program also claimed that the FBI cell tower data showed that BK's cell phone pinged nearly a dozen times close to the tower that provided coverage within 100 feet of the 1122 King Road home. And my understanding was that it was 100 meters. And I also, my understanding also was that the FBI found that it was 23 times, not 11 times. But let's continue on. This is Edwina Elcox, who's an attorney that's being quoted here. She is a criminal defense attorney in Boise, Idaho, and she told Fox News Digital that she thinks the judge is taking the leak very seriously. She said, I quote, "I think prosecutors / law enforcement will absolutely be held accountable." And she's noted that she has worked on cases with this particular judge. We like to call him Judge Hip on this channel. We think he's a really good judge. She says, "Can you imagine if the remedy for this was all that evidence being excluded?" And she said that she thought that this was absolutely, she said, "I absolutely think that is in the realm of remedies." Now, the judge said on Thursday in an order that the court's gag order was, quote, likely violated by someone who at one point was either associated with law enforcement or the prosecution team. He ordered that anyone who worked in law enforcement or prosecutors on this case retain all communication and data relating to this investigation. He said, quote, "Such violations not only undermine the rule of law, potentially by persons charged with upholding it, but also significantly impede the ability to seat an impartial jury and will likely substantially increase the cost to be borne by the taxpayers of Latah County to prosecute this case by extending the time it will take to seat a jury and potentially requiring a lengthy period of juror sequestration." That means the jurors would have to stay in a motel or hotel that the judge would put them up. So that would be a lot more costly. We'll see first of all, we'll have to see what's figured out, like who leaked. We don't know for sure. But he said that He's open to appointing a special prosecutor who would investigate where the leak came from, but hasn't yet made a decision. And he gave a 7-day deadline to prosecutors, and that deadline's like up, who were ordered to submit a list on camera of all the individuals with law enforcement and prosecuting agencies that have access to the information shared during the episode. The Idaho Statesman investigative reporter Kevin Fixler told Fox News America's Reports that he was surprised when the Dateline episode aired. Get this. He said, I have been on this case since literally day one, and it was a surprise. A lot of this information that was released just 2.5 months before the trial. So we're trying to better understand where that came from. So let's talk about professor. He's a forensic expert at Jacksonville State University professor. His name is Joseph Scott Morgan. Now, he told Fox News that there's a risk that the TV episode, that's the Dateline NBC, on BK will taint the jury pool. He said, I think the first place you have to look is tainting of the pool of the jury pool. Progressively, it becomes more and more difficult because people form opinions. They put things out there that are not true, and yet you still have to pick a jury. It's not like you're going to Manhattan. You're going to Ada County, Idaho. You have a limited pool of potential jurors there. He said, quote, they need to find out who inside that investigative bubble would release all of this digital data, because you're talking about a copious amount, not just new video that we're seeing that has never been seen before. So who leaked? Well, there's a lot of theories going around on who did the leaking. So we'll talk about that. Who benefited from the leak? We'll talk about that too in just a second, so please stay with me. So Morgan said that the leak might have the biggest impact if BK decides to file an appeal after a jury hands down a decision. Afterward, if in fact Kohberger is found guilty, his attorneys are going to have a field day with stuff like this. Well, they're already having a field day because, as I just shared with you, Ann Taylor wants another delay. Former U.S. Attorney Nima Ramani also weighed in. She told Fox News that he doesn't think the leak will have much of an impact on the case. So I thought that was interesting, kind of a different perspective. People should follow court orders, but this is more bluster than anything. I don't think much will come of it. This is what happens when you have a very broad gag order, and they're saying 3.5 years. But 22, he was arrested December 30th, 23, 24, 25. Yeah, maybe it is getting close to that. 3.5 years to finally get a murder case to trial. It's not realistic to expect evidence not to be leaked to the media for years in the biggest trial of this type. I'm watching my words now, in the country. And I agree. I mean, this has national and international headlines on this. So come on in, tell me where you're from. We have breaking news in the Bryan Kohberger case. If you are just joining me, let me pull this up. Breaking news, Bryan Kohberger defense team has filed a motion to delay his upcoming capital punishment trial, which is currently scheduled with opening statements to begin on August the 11th of this summer. And they want, with jury selection beginning July 30th, Ann Taylor is arguing that the proceeding as planned would violate Bryan Kohberger's constitutional rights due to incomplete trial preparation. We've heard her make this argument before. She said she didn't have enough time, and the judge said, look, you took another capital punishment case. You clearly have enough time. So he didn't buy it. I don't know what he's going to do this time, though, because now we have the Dateline leak, because she talks about that, too. She says mounting discovery challenges and recent media publicity that could prejudice the jury pool. So I guess my question is the media coverage going to stop and pause so that, he can have a fair trial? I don't know. I don't really think so. So let's talk about this alternative suspect theory. And let me just share with you, if you're just joining me, can you guys all hear me okay? Can everybody hear me? Yes or no? I just want to make sure, because I got a notification that my audio was out. Yes? Can you hear me, Grunger? Yes? Okay, thank you. And Jazz, God bless you, and Jazz. And Jazz is our head mod. Okay, thank you, Christy. Thank you, Brother Mike. Thank you, Susan. Thank you guys all for modding. You guys are Awesome. All right. So we're going to check in with chat in a little bit, but you guys know I like to get going. Okay. So we're going to talk about alternative suspects. What Dateline revealed about the leaker? Who benefited from the leaks? We're going to go through that. The glove. Is this going to create reasonable doubt for Bryan Kohberger? New information regarding Bryan Kohberger's parents, Mary Ann and Michael Kohberger. And what knife was the judge talking about? Do they have the K-bar knife? And then what leak will this leak cause important information to be suppressed, which is what we're talking about right now. So will this, let me know what you think. Do you think that this leak is going to make the judge decide that he's going to suppress information in this? If you think that the judge is going to suppress this information, that all of the evidence that was leaked in Dateline as a penalty to the prosecution, put a 1 in the chat. If you think the judge is not going to suppress this and this will not be held against the prosecution, put a 2 in the chat. So suppressed, if you think he's going to suppress the evidence, put a 1 in the chat. Not suppressed, it's the evidence will continue on, put a 2. Let's see where you guys are at. Let me see. Donna says yes. Ashley says it would benefit the defense the most, but judge has a brain and won't let it affect the case. Zoe says no. True Crime Snoopy says absolutely. Colleen says no. Colleen put a 2. Ash put a 2. So 2 is you do not think the judge will suppress evidence. Lainey says 2. Tara says 2. Christy put 2. Brother Mike put 2. Dabs 2. Zoe 2. Eileen 2. If you're watching, come on up and talk to me, you guys. Come on in and talk to me. True Crime Snoopy says no. Jet says 2. And Jazz says 2. Dab says 2. Leslie thinks he will. She put in a 1. Tammy 2. 2 from True Crime Snoopy. 2 from Ryan. 2 from Chanel. 2 from Grunger. Claire says 2. Per Anderson says 2. Lisa Hummer says 2. Brother Mike says, move forward, Hip. We call the judge Hip on this channel. We really like this judge. Chris put a 2. M put a 2. Maureen put a 2. And Michaela said, that's what I'm wondering. Where did they find the knife? Well, we're going to talk about that. 2, 2, 2, because everybody kind of set up, right? 2. All right. So we got 2s and no's. So it sounds like the rumors benefit the defense. We're going to talk about who benefited from the. Kathy put a 2. Susie put the 2. Thanks for modding today. It's me, Mike. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Who benefited from the rumors? And Jazz agrees with you. 2, Carrie says 1. She thinks that the judge is going to penalize the prosecution. Zoe said another judge, maybe, but not this judge. Grunger said the only way to prove it is the knife would mean victim DNA, wouldn't it? 2, 2, and 2. Rufus says, what is the question? If you think the judge is going to suppress evidence as a penalty to the defense, to the prosecution for the leaks that went on with Dateline NBC, put a 1 in the chat. If you think he is not going to penalize the prosecution by not allowing the evidence that was leaked onto Dateline NBC into the trial, then put a 2 in. So it seems overwhelmingly we have 2s. I have seen a handful of 1s, but mostly 2s. Okay, so thank you to everybody who participated on that. I really appreciate it. All right, let's continue on because we have a lot to unpack. We're going to talk about the alternative suspect right now, and then we're going to talk about what this Dateline NBC episode revealed about the leaker. Who benefited from this? We're going to talk about the glove. Is this going to create a reasonable doubt for Bryan Kohberger? New information regarding his parents. And what knife was the judge talking about? Do they have the K-bar knife? And then will the leak cause important evidence to be suppressed? We just talked about that. So we're going to move on from that. So let's talk about the defense claims of alternative suspect. All right. So they're coming forward to the judge. And during a hearing on May 15th, which I aired, if you haven't watched it, once you're done here, watch this first, but you'll want to go over and see the hearing. But a new theory was brought to the judge that suggests that BK didn't do away with Kaylee, Batty, Ethan, and Xana. Now, the judge was provided with a theory. He reportedly sealed this motion or this file and called upon Ann Taylor and the defense team to hand over more evidence to support the theory. He said, quote, "It seems to be much of what you put in there was potentially fairly objectionable in terms of admissibility." Ouch. Okay, so he didn't think it was admissible. He added, "Provide me with whatever evidence you have that supports those allegations rather than just allegations." So we were wondering, like, who was she making the allegations against? Additional hearings will be held next month to determine whether the alleged alternate perpetrator theory will be allowed at the trial. Now, BK's legal team has previously claimed that the detectives in Moscow, Idaho, kept a secret glove stained with blood from a second unidentified male that they found outside the home. We're going to talk about this glove now. The unknown blood samples give the defense the perfect tool to say their client was set up. This is according to a private eye named Paul Hubble. He added, "This gives the jury reasonable doubt and makes it very hard to convict." So what is this evidence? Let's talk about this glove. All right, let me just put, if anybody comes by, they'll know what we're talking about. Okay, so let's talk about this glove. Let me take this down. All right, so come on in. Tell me where you're from. We're going to talk about the glove. And then we're going to talk about what Dateline revealed about the leaker, who benefited from the leaks. We're going to go through that bit by bit. But some people have suggested that the alternative perpetrator is right up there with the defense claims of an alibi. In other words, it's smoke and mirrors. I saw that term used in the comment section, which is why I love reading your comments. We're going to do a poll on this too. So poll, if you think the alternative perpetrator is all smoke and mirrors by the defense, put the letter A in the chat. If you think the defense team has a viable alternative perpetrator, put a B in the chat. So A in the chat if you think, let me just write this down so I know. Put A in the chat if you think the defense does not, hold on. If you think the alternative perpetrator is smoke and mirrors, so nonsense, put an A in the chat. If you think the defense team has a viable alternative suspect, put a B in the chat. Now, an additional hearing will be held next month in June to decide whether the alleged alternative perpetrator theory will be allowed to be presented by Ann Taylor and her defense team to the jury during the trial. Now, I don't know if this hearing is going to be open to the public. I don't think it will be. But if it is, we will air it here on this channel. So I'm just waiting to find out more information on that hearing. As soon as I do, I will bring it to you. So let's see what you guys have to say about this poll that we are doing right now. Put an A in the chat. Let's see where we are. Okay, we got A's and B's. I'm just backing it up so I get everybody. Come on up and talk to me if you're just joining me. Let me see. Deborah put a 2. Okay, so that's the last poll. Thank you so much, Valerie, for the $9.99 super sticker. She says, thanks for being right on top of the case. We love you. I love you too, Valerie. Thank you so much. You're very kind. All right, let's go through the poll together. Tara says, I wish they would remove these games are getting old. Gunter put an A. C minor said the prosecution would benefit nothing from the leak. We're going to talk about that. We're going to go through each thing that we learned that was new. And we're going to look at who benefited from it. We're going to go through, I have 7 of the biggest takeaways. Zoe put an A. Patty put an A. Justice Matters put an A. Christy put an A. Whoop. All right. Lainey, A. A from M. Barbarossa. Mental Gymnastics says, hello all. Love my true crime family. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Reporter Room. I'm happy you're here today, Mental Gymnastics. I'm always glad to see you. There's George. Hi, George. Put an A. Susie put an A. Maureen put an A. Chanel put an A. Got a lot of A's today. Kathy put an A. Colleen says A. Brother Mike says A. Thank you, True Crime Snoopy. Thank you for your positivity. Moonlight put an A. Jet Set put an A. Susan put an A. Wow. A from DR. A from Eileen. Thank you so much, and Jazz, for being awesome. Mrs. Colombo put a B. Claire put an A. Dale A. Mary A. Wow, a lot of A's. Farrah A. Mary Jo A. C minor says A. All smoke and mirrors. Patty put an A. Stephen thinks it's B. Tara put an A. Adrian put an A. Kathy A. Lily A. Ryan A. True Crime Snoopy A. CO proof, no real proof, super smoker. So lots of smoke and mirrors. CO6 thinks. Tammy A. Kat says A. So it looks like the A's are winning. Dab says, thank you so much, Valerie, for supporting Reporter Room. Miss Independent says B. Amy says A. Julie says A. Christy put an A. For Maga says, I know defense has worked hard for their client, but I just can't with Ann Taylor. And Jazz put an A. Avocado Toast just got here, watching from Ireland. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. It's me. Mike put an A. Christy, thank you so much for modding today. Patty said, literally blowing smoke. So smoke and mirrors. If you think it's all smoke and mirrors by the defense, we're putting an A in. If you think the judge, if this is legitimate, there's going to be an alternative perpetrator and that Ann Taylor is really going to be able to provide evidence for one, put a B in. Florence says A. Per Anderson says, was it Chris McDonough that found the glove? Yes, you are right. A. All right, so regardless, not irregardless, sorry. Well, irregardless, you can use either one, but I understand that regardless is considered more correct, but irregardless is in there too. A. Hey, Roller. Kohberger was with his daddy. Michelle said A. All right, so we got a lot of A's, and Janelle put a B. All right, so we got a pretty good take on that. So thank you so much for joining our poll. So in addition to the hearing that will be held next month, we'll determine whether or not alternative perpetrator theory will be allowed at the trial. So let's talk about the glove that was inside. See, explain this. All right, so let's talk about the glove. So the defense team previously claimed that detectives in Moscow, Idaho, kept a secret glove. We've heard secret. Ann Taylor likes to use the word secret. I have a video titled Super Secret if you want to hear how much she loves to use the words secret. But don't leave me today. You could go watch that. It's in my playlist for this channel. But she's the second unidentified male that they found inside the home. Says, so this is according to that same PI I just talked about, PI Paul Hubble. Now, he said the unknown blood samples give the defense the perfect tool to say their client was set up. And he said that this would give the jury reasonable doubt. So will this glove give the jury a reasonable doubt? Well, the judge also brought up the relevance of the blood DNA on the first floor staircase handle. So this is different than the glove. But the judge pointed out that there were plausible reasons as to why the blood DNA on the staircase handrail. So to be clear, this is the handrail from the first floor going up the stairs to the second floor, because this house is 3 stories. So this was on the first floor going to the second floor handrail. And we know there was a big party the night before these crimes were committed at the 1122 King Road home. There was a big football weekend. So it's possible that the judge knows something more about this evidence than what we know. It's possible that this was degraded and not as new as the other blood found at the scene. We're going to probably have to wait for the trial to find out more about this blood that was found on the staircase handrail. But I also think the prosecution will respond to the defense team trying to create reasonable doubt with the unknown male DNA with this glove that was found outside. And I think what they're going to bring up is this how-to essay that Bryan Kohberger wrote while he was attending DeSales University in Pennsylvania working on his master's degree. Now, in the how-to essay, he included information about how a perpetrator could mislead law enforcement by planting evidence at the scene. And this essay was also written about a woman who was also stabby. Okay. So moreover, Fox News said that they thought that BK could have planted this evidence himself in an effort to create reasonable doubt. What do you guys think? Now, let's talk about that glove that was found outside. Let me know if you think this glove will will create reasonable doubt or not. Let me know. Also, let's talk a little bit more about the glove. Okay, so the glove was found by content creator and former police officer Chris McDonough. He found the glove outside the home nearly a month after the crimes were committed. So I think it's great that he turned it into law enforcement. He's doing his due diligence. He's a police officer, even though he's retired. He's still thinking like a police officer. And so at this point, this is my opinion. Let me know if you have a different opinion. I think anybody could have dropped this glove, a month after. I mean, it could have been somebody from the University of Idaho, a friend of the victims, or just a student coming to pay respects to the victims, or just coming to looky-loo. We had multiple content creators from YouTube going to the house to film around the house and film themselves at the house. I think we had CSI agents and law enforcement in and out of the house. And we also had the garbage people going by. So I think the defense will bring up the glove and they will try to use it as reasonable doubt. But I also think the fact that the glove was sitting out there for a month means that it probably wasn't missed by law enforcement when they were initially. I think it probably will be borne out that law enforcement would have grabbed it if it would have been out there when they were initially investigating the case. I think it's more likely than not that the glove was dropped after. Now, law enforcement may have photos of the house which would prove that the glove wasn't there. I don't know. Maybe they won't. So let's talk about what the judge said about the knife. There's been talk about Bryan Kohberger squirming when the judge talked about the knife. So let's look at that together. I want to let's go to the hearing. All right. And let me make sure I'm sharing this. Let me take this down and change to this. Okay. So was he squirming? I'm just waiting for it to think. Oh, it didn't pop up. Let me try one more time. I got to add it to the stage. That's right. Okay. So this is from the hearing. So let me just make sure I'm at the right mark. I am going to 3 hours and 16 minutes in. So we're going to watch Bryan Kohberger here while the judge talks about the knife. Let me make this nice and big. And let me move myself out of your way. All right. So you can see Bryan Kohberger is right up here. Right here. And people are saying that they think he's squirming. Here, we're going to listen to the judge. Tell me what you see. And I'm going to crank this all the way up. So there's been a lot of questions. Is the judge talking about the knife, the K-bar knife? Does the prosecution, did they find the knife? We don't know. We don't know, but he definitely is talking about a knife here. Now I'm watching Bryan Kohberger really carefully. People have said they saw him squirming. I don't really see any squirming. Do you guys see squirming? No sound? Oh. Well, shucks. Hold on. It should be playing with sound. I have the sound all the way up. Let me see. I have it cranked. I have it maxed out. Let me Okay, thank you. I can see, I hear. Thank you so much for letting me know. Thank you so much, and Jazz. Okay, so basically, what I wanted to just see, can you hear me now? Let me just ask that. Can you hear me? Just not the video. Okay, that's fine. All right. Basically, the judge talks about the knife, and there's been a lot of question. Was he talking about the knife, as in, the knife from that, the K-bar knife? And then there's been talk about Bryan Kohberger, whether he was squirming while the judge was talking about it. I did not see any movement from him at all. Maybe there's an eye twitch or something. Okay, good. I'm glad you can hear me. But I didn't see anything. So I'm wondering what knife you guys think the judge is talking about here. We know from the affidavit that there was at least one other knife that was collected by law enforcement when they executed the search warrants on the Albrightsville, Pennsylvania house, on the Pullman apartment, on his office, and on his Hyundai Elantra. We know Ann Taylor tried to suppress all of those, and we didn't know like what was in what. But we do know that the prosecution has a knife. We just don't know if it's the knife. So I don't see Bryan Kohberger squirming, in my opinion. He just, like people have said, they thought maybe he was squirming when the judge talks about the prosecution having a knife. I think, he might be just looking around, but I didn't see any squirming or anything unusual in his behavior. Let me know if you saw something differently. So let's talk about who leaked the information to Dateline and who benefits from this leaking. Who leaked to Dateline and who benefits from the leak? Let's put this up in case anybody comes out. Okay, so let me move myself here too. There. All right. And I am going to check in with chat in just a second. So some people think the defense team leaked the information. Some people think it was law enforcement that leaked the information. Some people think it was the prosecution that leaked the information. So I'm going to give you my take on it, and then we're going to go through the pros and cons. We have 7 things that were leaked, and we're going to look at who benefited. I don't see an upside, in my opinion, to Bill Thompson, the lead prosecutor, leaking this information. Could it have been somebody that was used to be on the prosecution team? Maybe somebody, feeling a little bit angry or alienated. It's possible. Because in my opinion, Bill, I don't think anybody that's currently on the prosecution team is going to risk alienating this judge. I think Bill Thompson probably already feels like he has a good case. I don't think he would risk not being able to present the evidence that he has to get some clicks and views on Dateline. I don't see where this benefits the prosecution. Let me know if you think it. Now, I do think it's possible that it could be somebody that was either in law enforcement or formerly in law enforcement that has just been frustrated at being stuck under this gag order. We do know that the law enforcement departments that were involved were the Moscow Police Department, the Idaho State Police Department, the FBI, the Pullman Police Department. I think the Washington State Campus Police had some information, all the CSI investigators. So it could be somebody somehow involved in law enforcement or a former member of the prosecution who just feels frustrated under this really, I think, overly zealous gag order. And then some people believe that it's the defense team because they feel like the defense would benefit the most from the leak. And we see Ann Taylor in here running in with the breaking news that we had today that, Ann Taylor is now filing for another delay. She wants a delay related to the Dateline NBC. So is she just, taking advantage of the fact that there's an NBC and doing her job as an attorney? And, and I don't mean taking advantage in a negative way. I mean, pressing her advantage. But some people feel like the defense team actually benefited the most from the leak. So who's right? Well, let's go through all the information and let's just see who benefits. So let's start with the selfie photo of Bryan Kohberger in that black hoodie. Let me see if I have that. Yeah. Okay. So this photo. So let's start with this photo of Bryan Kohberger in the black hoodie. This is a selfie photo of him in the black hoodie. Now, Dateline said that he was doing this as a hat tip. They didn't use the word hat tip. I'm paraphrasing, but that he was doing this to copy Ted Bundy. This was unknown prior to this leak. And also the fact that Bryan Kohberger reportedly searched out Ted Bundy and watched a movie about Ted Bundy. And I already shared all of this in the last live stream, so I'm not going to rehash this. But Ted Bundy also went to college in the same state, Washington State, not at the same school, but the same state as Bryan Kohberger. Now, did Bryan Kohberger choose to attend school in the state of Washington because he wanted to feel closer to Ted Bundy? I don't know. So who benefited from this leak? I would think that this would be a benefit to the prosecution. I don't think this Hoodie did anything to really help the defense, in my opinion. Let me know if you have a different take on it. Let me put a different picture of Bryan Kohberger up. Whoop. There we go. Okay. So I think that one goes to the prosecution. Let me know if you have a different take. Number 2, we have 7 of these. The WSU colleague. Okay, now this was not new news. I reported this information out to you guys over a year ago, and it was in the public domain already prior to the, it had already been leaked prior to this. I mean, I had it. So it was, but there was a little bit of new information presented with it. They presented it that she was somehow infatuated with Bryan Kohberger. I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just wondering if the defense is going to try to allude to the fact that she deserved to have her cameras utilized to spy on her. Because if you guys are not familiar with the story, if you didn't see the Dateline NBC episode, or you didn't see the coverage that I did a year ago, I got called a liar, by the way, when I reported that out, just FYI. But the WSU student wasn't new, but it was a colleague, and she shared an office with Bryan Kohberger. We didn't know they shared an office prior to Dateline NBC. She kept her keys and probably other things in the drawer, maybe with her purse. He, allegedly got her key, went in, moved some stuff around, took a watch and some papers, took a cake and put it in the microwave, enough where it freaked her out when she went home. She noticed her key was missing and then noticed it was returned. And then she was having security cameras installed inside her home, and he offered to help her, got her Wi-Fi password, and then used her own security system to spy on her in her most intimate moments. So this was already out in the public domain. So this, other than the fact of how he got the key and the fact that it was papers and a watch missing, everything else was out there. So I think this one is a wash. It doesn't really benefit the prosecution or the defense for Dateline to have put this out. It wasn't new. It was news we already knew. Number 3, the Amazon searches prior to the crimes having been out in the public domain. Again, this was already public. I reported this out last year that he had purchased the K-bar knives in the spring of 2022. We got confirmation, but we did get a little bit more from Dateline. We got confirmation that he purchased this knife on Amazon. We already knew that. Due to the fact that the defense team tried to suppress this evidence. So that was not new. They didn't want the jury to know about BK's search. So they made the argument that the algorithm made Bryan Kohberger choose the knife, put it in his cart, and pay for it and check out and have it shipped to himself at his parents' house. We also knew that he searched again for a K-bar knife after the crimes. I don't think this information is new. So let's talk about the phone calls that occurred back to Michael Kohberger's family line. This was new. We didn't know about this. And we're going to talk about Bryan Kohberger's parents, Mary and Michael Kohberger, and some new information in just a moment. So please stay with me. So let's talk about so we didn't know about the phone calls. And now one of them was like 54 minutes, and there was 3 phone calls made to family lines under the name of Michael Kohberger at 6:30 in the morning Pullman time, which would have been later in Pennsylvania. Now, we didn't know about these phone calls at all prior to Dateline. So who does this benefit? Well, some people feel like it benefits the defense team because they feel like it shows that Bryan Kohberger was acting normally that morning. Other people feel like it favors the prosecution because they think it's suspicious that he was calling, and maybe gives them Brian Laundrie, Gabby Petito vibes because Brian Laundrie, you will recall, hiked after he did away with Gabby and made a call to his parents, who promptly got him a lawyer. And he, we know the story. He drove Gabby's van, returned back with Gabby's van. And a lot of people feel like his parents knew. So Does this phone call benefit the defense? Does the knowledge of the phone call benefit the prosecution? It depends on how you look at it. But I think the phone calls could benefit the defense in that it does show that he was acting potentially normally. It depends on what, if he called his dad just 3 times and he doesn't usually do that, then it would benefit the prosecution. But the jury doesn't know that, right? They wouldn't know, how often he normally would call his dad. So I don't know. I think this one is kind of a wash. Also, let me know if you feel differently. Let's go to number 5. Now, this, I think, benefits the defense. This is the hiking story that was told by the DJ who met Bryan Kohberger at that pool party that summer. Now, this hiking story, the DJ talks about coming down from hiking up this mountain, and he said it was late, the sun was setting, it was starting to get dark, and Bryan Kohberger was going up the hill at night. So I think this leak does benefit the defense team because it shows that Bryan Kohberger liked to go hiking at night. So that's one for the defense team, in my opinion. Let's go to number 6. Let's talk about the photographs of the young women and their swimsuits that were also friends of Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana, or some friends of those. I again think this benefits the defense. So hear me out. I think that he had photographs of the victims. Potentially, we've heard. I've been reporting that we have heard that he has photographs of the victims on his cell phone. That was not what Dateline put out. So by putting this out early, it helps to offset the shock that the jury might find out that he had photos of victims on the cell phone, and the defense can say he had lots of young women on his cell phone. So again, I think the photos of the young women in their swimsuits and that they were friends with the victims benefits the defense. Let me know if you have a different take on it. Last, number 7. This is the searches that he did related to corn with a P regarding liking and enjoying non-consensual SA, being medicated and being passed out and being asleep. This is what he was into. This does not benefit the defense, in my opinion. I think that the fact that Bryan Kohberger enjoyed non-consensual SA helps the prosecution. I don't think it helps the defense at all. I think it's bad for the defense that this is the kind of thing that he was into is gross. I think a lot of women are going to think this is gross. So Ann Taylor now has come out guns blazing. We knew something was going on because the last hearing was delayed. I did a pre-show. I was expecting to talk for 30 minutes. I ended up talking for an hour while we were waiting. But, I think that she came out guns blazing early on in her hearing, accusing the prosecution of leaking the information. We heard the judge admonish both sides not to call names. So I believe there was name calling going on. I don't know if this was coming from the defense or the prosecution, but a lot of people are wondering if Ann Taylor attempted to try for a mistrial or a delay then, after the leaking from the Dateline stating that it was hurting her client so much. So who ultimately benefits from the leaking? I think the fact that Ann Taylor is trying to have this evidence that was leaked all thrown out, I think it benefits the defense that it was leaked. So I don't know. I'm not saying the defense leaked it. I just am going by who benefited. So let's do a poll of what you guys think. That's my opinion, but we don't all have to have the agreement on the same thing. Who do you feel benefits the most from the leaks? If you think it's the prosecution, put a P or prosecution in the chat. If you think it's the defense, put a D or defense in the chat. If you think it's a wash and neither side benefited, then put a 0 in the chat. So P for prosecution, D for defense. Let's see where you guys are at. P for prosecution and D for defense. Jill says, I don't think photos benefit the defense. It was his way of picking out his victims. Kami says, he has shown no remorse for any of this. He has not screamed his innocence in any way. He's eating this all up. No, he's never said he's never even pled not guilty. He's never even said he's not guilty. That's true. My favorite uncle, so weird. What guy in his 20s has pictures of women in bikinis? I don't know. I think it's another connection to the victims potentially, but we don't all have to agree. We're not going to all agree on every case, right? So it's okay if we don't all agree. Yeah, we've talked about his trips. Santos says maybe they should find a jury from the Sentinel Islands. Yeah. Okay, let's see what we say. What you guys think? If it benefits the defense, you're putting a D. If it's benefiting the prosecution, you're putting a P. If you think neither benefited, just put a 0 or an O. All right, Marilyn thinks it benefits the defense. Carrie says this is a bad guy. He's dangerous and absolutely cannot be let out. DE thinks it benefits the defense. Sherry thinks that the Dateline NBC leak benefits the defense. Christy thinks it benefits the defense. Kami, I'm assuming your W means a wash. It doesn't benefit either. You think it's a wash? If I'm wrong, let me know, Kami. And thank you for modding today. Tori thinks it's a D. Mike agrees with you, Kami. It's a wash. Crafty One puts a D. Claire puts a 0. So neither, it's a wash. Kami says it's 0. It's a wash. Kimmy says D for defense. Christiane says D, defense. M. Barbarossa feels it benefits the defense. Chanel thinks it's a wash. Ophelia thinks it benefits the defense. Patty thinks it benefits the defense. Ooh. Kathleen, defense. Well, we just went through everything. If you want to back it up a little bit, what was word? It'll give, like, I went through like the 7 main things that was leaked, and what we knew about and what we didn't. This are probably the 7 biggest takeaways, in my opinion. If you have a different one, or if I missed something, let me know in the comment section below. Mike thinks D. Christine says D. Adrian says the defense is still trying to prove can't get impartial trial. Judge won't entertain delay in the trial. If Taylor doesn't want leaks, needs to get the trial started. It's a wash. Yeah, I don't think these, let me know. I don't think we're going to talk about Michael and Marianne Kohberger and some new information about them, Bryan Kohberger's parents, in just a second. So please stay with me. But I agree. I don't think that this benefits the defense. The defense benefits if they get this thrown out or if they get a delay. Z06 puts D. DE says info shouldn't be removed just because of the leak, though. Mrs. Colombo puts a D. Jill thinks D. Justice Matters puts D. Chanel thinks it's a wash. Delve D. I haven't seen anybody put a P. I've seen defense and it's a wash. Thank you so much for modding today, and Jazz. Tammy put a D. Carrie put a D. Hey, Princess Elsa, thanks for modding. Kat put a D. All right, so lots of Ds. Colleen put a D. Dion says, there's a wildlife park along the way to Albertsons. I think he buried his kit there. Grudger says, what type of innocent person stands silent for a plea? He's never proclaimed his innocence. That is definitely worth noting. His attorneys have, but he hasn't personally. Hi, this is our other head mod, 6 cents, Amelia. D. Donna thinks it's a D. Hanny Lou thinks it's a wash. D. Okay, so a lot of D's. We have 1 P, prosecution for Princess Elsa. Betsy thinks it's a wash, and Jazz thinks it's a defense. Vera thinks it's a prosecution. Mike says, why buy a K-bar and then search for another one and search for purchases after, right? Because, and I think you're right, Mike, because I think what the jury's going to say is, they're going to be looking in this and be like, well, where's your knife? Where's your knife sheath? Where did they go? All right, we got a couple more D's coming in. Dabs puts a D and wash. All right, so, hey, Mike. Yeah, please use the word unalive or red rum. But yeah, Kit, watch your language in here. We want to keep it G-rated. Okay, I really respect the platform I'm on. So we're going to talk about Bryan Kohberger's parents. And I want to find out, do you guys think this gag order has been like ridiculously broad? It was put in place by Latah County Magistrate Judge Megan Marshall. I think I reported out prior that it was Latah County Judge John Judge, but it wasn't. It was Judge Megan Marshall. She issued this gag order, and a lot of people feel like this gag order has just been like too much too broad, and that the parties involved have the right to free speech. They have the right to free expression. And a lot of people feel like she didn't strike a good balance between Bryan Kohberger's right to a fair trial and the victim's family members' right to talk about what happened to Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana. Um, you know, and we know that the First Amendment rights, should give you the right to free speech. So was this gag order too broad? Let me know what you think. Because it was expanded mid-January. So first there was just like a gag order and it was kind of normal, and it didn't include the families, and it was put in place at the request of the defense team. The prosecution agreed to protect Bryan Kohberger's right to a fair trial. But then it got expanded into January, that prohibited like a number of people from talking publicly about this case. It kind of got crazy big, including the attorneys on both sides, investigators, law enforcement personnel, but it also included victims, loved ones, and any attorney that was representing a witness or a victim or family's victim. So, let's talk about what happens when somebody does violate a gag order. And let me pull this up for you. So what happens when a gag order is violated? Let me make sure. Let me take this down, put this up. Okay. So do these work, or are these just, overly broad and irrelevant? The families of the victims, oh, this is one I have to subscribe to. That's all right. I have another one. I always put two. So let's go to this one. Okay, let me grab this instead. All right, so this I thought was a really interesting article by Freedom of the Press Foundation. They feel like this unconstitutional gag order creates mass confusion in Idaho. And so they feel like this is unconstitutional. And they, said, for an example, the mayor of Moscow, Idaho, reportedly told journalists he can't comment on the effects of how these crimes affected the community due to the gag order. The police department issued a press release that it will no longer discuss the case with the media or public. I think that's okay. The victims' relatives, though, I don't know if this bothers you, but I think if one of my loved ones had been done away with, I would want to be able to talk about it. The victims' relatives and their attorneys had to file a motion asserting their rights, otherwise obvious, to speak for themselves. A local 911 service requested clarification on whether it could comply with open records laws and release tapes requested by the press, because the press wanted the 911 call without running a file of the gag order. Other agencies denied records requests outright. This is from the media, citing the gag order. So was this gag order just like too crazy and broad? And what are the ramifications? What can the judge impose? What does the judge get to decide on this? And we're going to talk about Bryan Kohberger's family next. But in my opinion, they could, with this Dateline NBC, they could decide that some of the evidence that was released that violated the gag order, the judge is, talked about a special prosecutor. But, I think it would have to be somebody that leaked from the prosecution team, in my opinion, for him to impose such a, draconian measures as to hold the evidence out. But it is within the realm of possibility that he could do this in relation to the leak. So let me know what you think about that. If you think that he should or shouldn't be including, this gag order, if it's just too much. I just feel like the gag order is a lot. I think it is too much, in my opinion. Okay, let's continue on because we have still so much back. Let's talk about the Kohbergers, and let me pull this up for you guys. So, all right, take this down, put this in place. All right, so this is by Phil Kohberger. And he says, from Kohberger, Kohberger's family, life under the shadow of a high-profile murder trial. We already know that he was charged. Okay, so this article is going to examine the backgrounds of his parents, Michael and Mary Ann Kohberger, as well as his sisters, Amanda and Melissa. And it talks about how this has affected Bryan Kohberger's family. So, I guess my feeling is if the gag order applies to the victim's loved ones, then wouldn't it apply to the perpetrator's loved ones too, or not? And that's why I think there is some questions on like how broad is this, and where are we going to draw the line? But this is out there, so I'm going to share it with you. This article examines their backgrounds, how they live now, their experience with the courtroom, how they've managed the media spotlight, and with new information and a trial on the horizon, they are in the middle of a dialogue, and it's true. It is true, especially in light of the fact that Bryan Kohberger called his dad the morning that these crimes occurred, or dad's phone, and talked three times. Like, was that normal for them to talk like this, or was it abnormal? So the silence of, they've largely disappeared from public view since Bryan was arrested. He was arrested in his parents' Albrightsville, Pennsylvania home. We've heard that his parents were zip tied, which is, I think, standard procedure. They did recover a Glock. So you can see, law enforcement is going to do what they have to do to protect themselves first. But, the silent life of Michael Kohberger post-retirement. He worked in maintenance for the Pleasant Valley School District for over a decade, retiring in 2019. We know he called the police when Bryan allegedly stole his sister's cell phone and then ultimately dropped the case. In 2023, Michael was subpoenaed to testify at another case against Dana Smithers, further complicating his already overburdened life. He has declined media interviews but remains a public presence in this case, and with the court's permission, he will be attending the trial of Bryan. Mary Ann Kohberger's humanity, right, and power of speech. Mary Ann worked as a paraprofessional with special needs students until her retirement around 2020. She was regarded as a kind, gentle, and occasionally expressed opinions in local newspapers. We know she wrote that paper about Ted Bundy and capital punishment. One of her letters, penned after the Uvalde school shooting, revealed the depth of her emotional investment in national tragedies. She submitted a poem her daughter wrote reflecting the family's awareness of violence, and Mary Ann was subpoenaed in 2023 and could be a witness. So this is new. Could be a witness in her son's trial. So that's new. And if you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do, because I will bring you all of the latest information. It will be credibly journalistic sourced information. Amanda Kohberger's privacy and acting history. So this is his sister. This is his older sister. She starred in an independent horror flick, I-011, called 2 Days Back. And she eventually led a more private life. In 2023, Amanda was reportedly fired from her job. I don't think that was fair, presumably because of her brother's arrest, but we don't know. So we don't know if that's why she was fired. It could have been something else. Unverified rumors suggest that Amanda became suspicious. So now we know which sister it was, but this is not verified. So speculation alert. Became suspicious of Bryan's behavior before his arrest. She stated she started picking up on his peculiar behavior, like he was wearing latex gloves in the house. If called as a witness, she would be potentially a significant one for the trial. Now, we don't know if she was subpoenaed, but we do know that Mary Ann, BK's mother, was subpoenaed. Okay, let's talk about, so that's Amanda, the older sister. Let's talk about Melissa, the younger sister. She retires from therapy helping work. She was a licensed mental health therapist in New Jersey before she allegedly was fired in 2023. We don't need to know about her politics. In a poem her mother published following the tragedy was considered a final connection between Wilder and her daughter. The author confirmed that Melissa's writing would endure. Melissa was not included in this is interesting, was not included in the family's joint public statement, indicating she may be heading down a more insular road as the trial approaches and passions run high. So Amanda is allegedly the sister who was suspicious of him And Melissa was not included in the family's joint public statement. And Marianne, the mother of Bryan Kohberger, has been subpoenaed. Okay, so that's what we know so far. We knew that his family was going to be allowed to attend the trial. I don't know which family members. Let's see. We'll have to probably wait to get a little bit closer to find out who's coming. But we're assuming that because it's 4 seats that the judge is reserving, that it's going to be his mother and his father and Amanda and Melissa, his 2 sisters. But, I don't know. The fact that one sister maybe have been suspicious of him and the other one didn't want to be included in the public statement may mean that it could be 2 other family members. But there's going to be 4 seats reserved. The verdict mentioned their continued loyalty to Bryan and participation in the investigation. As Dateline The Terrible Night on King Road airs, interest is building in BK's visiting courtroom building in the Kohberger. So we're talking about Michael and Marianne's visiting the courtroom ahead of Bryan's trial, which is scheduled to begin with opening statements on August 11th and jury selection July 30th. The Kohbergers were having financial difficulties before the crimes. They had declared bankruptcy twice, first in 1996 and second 2010. I don't really think that's that relevant in my opinion, but I will just share the article with you. The pressure intensified after BK's arrest. I'm sure it did. Some stories included family tension and financial hardship associated with legal troubles. Nevertheless, the family released a statement expressing sympathy for the victims, yet defending Bryan's right to be presumed innocent. Their struggle to balance grief, loyalty, and public judgment remains a tentpole of the ongoing case. So let's go through the final words. As Bryan Kohberger trial looms, his family saga in the eyes of the public continue to reveal more about the family. Now the Kohbergers, a simple, unassuming family from Pennsylvania, are the center of one of the most high-profile trials in living memory. Their stories underscore just how wide-ranging disaster reverberations can be, and the trial, we already know, is scheduled to begin with opening statements on August the 11th. So this was written by Maria Kay, but she's got it from Phil Kohberger's family. So sounds like she had an inside scoop. So are they also under this gag order or not? I'm just wondering if it applies to, anybody besides the victims' loved ones. I'm just curious what you guys think. Let's continue on because I have so much to unpack here. All right, so we're going to talk about that Hyundai Elantra. Why didn't it just park like behind the apartments and wait to enter the home? Why was it circling the neighborhood 5 times? And why was it circling the house 3 times? And then what about BK's wardrobe change at the latest hearing? We've been seeing some wardrobe changes. We're going to talk about that in just a second. So please stay with me, but come on up and talk to me. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. Mike says, I feel bad for the sister, but I don't know. I kind of changed my feelings for the parents. They may have cooperated the arrest, but I question whether they suspected and said nothing. I think the sister did. I'm going to reserve judgment on the family till I find out if these were normal phone calls and if this flight that Michael Kohberger flew out to drive back with Bryan Kohberger, if it was made prior to the November 13th of 2022 crimes and Bryan Kohberger always called his family that many times, then I probably wouldn't think it's such a big deal. Let me know what you guys think. But if that was unique and the plane flight arrangements for Michael Kohberger to fly out and drive back with Bryan Kohberger were after those phone calls, I don't know what you guys think. To me, that could potentially be a red flag. Thank you for modding today, Susan. Please hop on over to the thumbs up button and show who's boss. Thank you so much. I want to welcome Leanne, who's a brand new channel member, to Reporter Room. Thank you so much for being part of our channel, and welcome to the Reporter Room family. And Jazz gifted a Reporter Room membership. Thank you so much, Njaz. And if you received that membership, please let Njaz know. Please say thank you. Valerie, thank you for the $9.90 super thanks. She said, thanks for being right on top of the case. We love you. Thank you so much, Valerie. I really appreciate your positivity. I appreciate your encouragement. Thank you so much. Brother Mike, thank you for the $1.99 super sticker. I am putting this toward editing equipment. I do have a second computer for the trial, so I will be airing the trial, but I'm still going to be covering other cases, so I'll be editing on the other computer while the trial is airing. Donna, thank you so much for the $2.99 super sticker. I'm putting that toward editing equipment. Thank you so much. Kami, thank you for letting me know there's no sound. Also, thank you for being a channel member for 24 months. If you would like to be a channel member, hit the join button. It's next to the subscribe button, but subscribing is free and it helps me out a lot. I can't gift to 50,000 subscribers without viewers like you helping me out. So help a girl out. And Josh, thank you for gifting 1 Reporter Room membership. Kami, thank you for gifting a Reporter Room membership. 6 cents Amelia, thank you for the $1.99 New Zealand. And Jazz and KB and Amelia, thank you all. And Donna, thank you all for modding today. And Florence, thank you for the $1.99 super sticker. I really, really appreciate that. It is so kind of you. Okay. So thank you guys very, very much for that. We don't know. I don't know how Phil is related, but obviously he's a family member that was interviewed by the author. If I find out more, I'll let you know. I don't want to like bother him. Like, you know, I don't want to. So please don't send any negativity to anybody. Let me just say that. Not that any of you guys would. I don't think you would, but just Lainey says, I think they couldn't deal. I feel bad at first, but in a way, it's not unlike the roommates. They just couldn't believe it despite what they saw. You're talking about the family members here. That makes a lot of sense. And Jennifer says, I could see being suspicious, but still in disbelief. It's beyond comprehension for any parents. Guadalupe says, have you noticed that after Ann Taylor brought up his autism, BK has sat hunched with his hands on his lap. Lately, I've noticed he also started rocking sideways. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Jill, for the $5 super sticker. That is so nice of you. I am putting that toward editing equipment. Thank you so much, Jill. I will be putting that to good use for the channel. All right. So let's talk about Bryan Kohberger and how he looked at the hearing. Let me pull that up. Let me share it. Let me take this down. Boop. Grab this one instead. Okay. So you can see Bryan Kohberger sitting here. He's in the white and he's got a tie on and the suit is gone. Let me move myself down here. And the suit's completely gone now. He's in a white shirt. And before that, on the hearing before that, he was wearing just a blue shirt, button down without a tie. So it seems like they're working with some jury consultants. Let me know if you have a different take. And we're going to talk about why Bryan Kohberger or whoever was driving the Elantra waited to park and circle. But let's talk about the outfits change, the wardrobe change. So many people have been commenting about Bryan Kohberger's wardrobe change. He went from wearing suits to plain shirts in light colors. He's wearing white, which is kind of an innocent color. Light blue was the pastel color from the hearing before. The hearing before, he didn't have a tie on. So I think they're trying different things out and probably pulling people with a jury consultant. So did the defense team hire a jury consultant? A lot of people think that they did. I don't know. But the other thing that people are pointing out is that Bryan Kohberger's seat back appears to be lower. And you can see his seat back is right there. Here's Ann Taylor's seat back. Here's Alyssa Mathoff's seat back. And there's Bryan Kohberger's seat back all the way down there. They have him lower than, and Alyssa's tiny. This attorney, right? Attorney Mathoff is very short. She's very petite. So Ann Taylor's seat back here, there, but Bryan's is all the way down here. So a lot of people feel like this is, a little bit manipulative. They're just wondering if they're, let me know if you have a different feeling. We don't all have to agree on every case. It's okay. But they're feeling like he's sitting, body language very small versus, more confident. The suit, which would have had shoulder pads in it, right? Because it would have, they use that to help flush out the suit to help keep its shape. That's gone, and he's lost weight. So he's in a white shirt, and before that he was in a light blue shirt. Again, without the big shoulder pads, and his seat is so low. I just wonder what the jury's going to think about this. So there's Ann Taylor, there's Attorney Massoff, and there is Bryan Kohberger's seat top right down there. What do you guys think? How do you think the jury's going to be feel about this? Do you think they're going to feel like they're being manipulated, or do you think they're going to feel like it's fine? But so he looks like he's the same height as the most petite and shortest of the three attorneys. He almost looks like he's, even with his seat lower than hers, he still is, head and shoulders above her, or at least head. But if his seat was up even with her, you would clearly see that he's 6 feet tall. But just curious what you guys think about that. And then the other thing, let's talk about the circles of the car. So let's talk about why did he just not pull in and just wait? Why did he circle the 1122 King Road home multiple times in the Hyundai Elantra? Let's just put a picture of him up really quick. There we go. That's good. Okay. So you can see with the suit, it has the shoulder pads. So it would make him look bigger with the suit on, and we saw something similar with the wardrobe in other cases too. So this isn't new, right? In the Jodi Arias case, a lot of people have talked about, the roommates waiting 8 hours. In Jodi Arias case, we know for a fact that she did away with Travis Alexander. She denies it, but there was literally pictures from her camera that she loved to take pictures that she put in the wash. I guess she thought that would destroy the camera's card. But she had literally pictures of herself at the crime scene, doing away with Travis. Now, he had roommates, you guys, and he had roommates that lived with him. He lay on that bathroom floor, not for hours, but for days. And it wasn't until other friends of Travis's came over looking for him that they are the ones that found him. And law enforcement want to know, how did you not smell it? And they said they just thought it was rotting food. They didn't know what decomp smelled like. But Jodi Arias, we saw something similar. She went from being the blonde, buxom, beautiful girl to looking sort of like a mousy librarian by the time we got to trial. Her hair was dyed brown. She had suddenly was wearing glasses, and she was, dressed. I don't mean to say anything. Librarians can be beautiful, vivacious, but she just had a very, school look about her, a very studious look with the glasses and the mousy brown hair, just a completely different look to her, again, to make her look more appealing to the jury. It didn't work, but, she's not on death row, so maybe it saved her life. And then we have on the Casey Anthony trial. Now, she was found not guilty, so in my opinion, it did work. Jose Baez, who was her attorney, reportedly, lowered her seat down as low as it would go, dressed her in pastels, pulled her hair back up off her shoulders, got her hair back off her neck and shoulders, and she went from looking like a party girl to, again, looking very, just with high neck, pastel colors, with the seat very low, looking very diminutive. They put their arm around her a lot, made her, look, like, and it worked. It worked. The jury found her not guilty. I don't think they could reconcile that a young mother could do something like that to Kaylee Anthony. So Ann Taylor, I think, is doing something similar. So the suits are gone, and now we're in shirts. So let's talk about the car. And why did it make these laps around the car house? But I do want to say thank you to our producers. We're not done. We're going to talk about the car next, but I want to say thank you to Enja, Sasha Angel, George Brown, Pepper, and Christy Valentine. And thank you also to our channel members. Really grateful. If you would like to have your name up here just like this and have a check mark next to your name in all of our live streams, just hit the join button. It's next to the subscribe button, and you can become a channel member, and your name will appear just like this. So thank you to all of you for allowing me to be able to cover cases like this. I really, really appreciate your kindness. I appreciate your support. I really am grateful to each and every one of you guys for everything that you do for Reporter Room. And I also want to do, this is from last week, super thanks and coffee gratitude to Brother Mike, My Insane World, Valerie, Haters Gonna Hate, and 6 cents Amelia. And thank you for your gifted memberships, 6 cents Amelia and Jazz. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. If I ever leave you out and you're supposed to be on there, please let me know. All right, so let's talk about the circling of the car. What was going on there? Why didn't the Hyundai simply park up in the back where the apartments were? Why was it circling the neighborhood 5 times and circling the house? I'm going to give you my theory, so speculation warning, but I want to hear if you guys have a different theory. I think there was a couple of things going on here. While he was circling the neighborhood, I think that he's mentally preparing himself. I believe that the perpetrator practiced this crime. Some people have said they can't believe that he would have done it in that amount of time. Ted Bundy did it faster, and a lot of people have speculated that he was trying to beat Ted Bundy's time. I don't know if that's true or not true, but let me know if you think he was trying to beat Ted Bundy's time in the comment section below, especially now that we know that he, searched for him and watched a film on him. So I think that he would have practiced. I think that's the reason he had a knife sharpener. I think he circled the neighborhood, mentally preparing himself, waiting for signs, just from himself to just get up the nerve to do it. But then we saw him come in closer, and that Hyundai Elantra began circling the house. And remember, we've only seen 2 video footages of this car. There's 12 hours of raw video footage of this Hyundai Elantra that we have not seen, you guys. So then, he circled the house 3 times. And this is my opinion. Let me know if you have a different feeling. I feel like the perpetrator was waiting for the victims to go to bed. In the past, I believe that he parked up in that back parking lot. We know that his phone pinged in the vicinity, according to the FBI, 23 times leading up to the crimes, mostly between the times of 10 p.m. at night and 4 a.m. in the morning. So not a lot of restaurants, shops, and gas stations open. There was a Winco that was 24 hours, but other than that, not a lot. But I think he was waiting for the victims to go to bed. I think he had picked this house. I think he was set on the November 13th date because of the page 118 in the Elliot Rogers affidavit. So speculation warning, but that was the day of retribution, was November of 2013. He would have wanted the day of retribution to be a party weekend. And we know Elliot Rogers did away with 2 co-eds, 2 sorority girls. So I think that, he practiced. I think he fantasized about this. I think he thought about it, and he picked that weekend because he couldn't go back in time and make it 2013, but he could use November 13th. And I think that date was chosen as a hat tip, in my opinion, to Elliot Rogers. Because that's what he wrote about on page 118 on the last line of his manifesto. So I think he was circling the house instead of sitting up behind the apartment, even though I think it got him on more camera footage. I ultimately think it was his downfall to circle the house and the neighborhood. I think he thought in his mind that he would be less noticeable. I think he made himself more noticeable because he was caught on multiple CCTV cameras circling the house and then the neighborhood. So neighborhood 5 times, the house 3 times. Another huge mistake he made was driving a car with different looking plates. We know that his Hyundai Elantra was missing a front license plate. And in Washington, people have a front and back license plate. I think this made his Hyundai Elantra stand out even more, in my opinion. Let me know if you have a different thought on that. Let me check in with chat and see what you guys think about this. And I'm going to be covering the missing case of Jack and Lily, the mysterious disappearance of Jack and Lily in after this. So if you want to follow me over for that, we're going to talk about that next. Let's go through some comments. Let me grab a sip of water. Francine thinks that the suit jacket appeared to be short in the arms. Rose put in a 2. And you can back it up if you guys want to. If you missed the beginning of the live stream, guys can back this up. Let me move myself up so I'm taking comments. I'm not blocking it. Welcome, Christine. I'm glad you're here. Michelle said, with my nerve stress, I lose weight. He's not fed healthy meals No one is in jail. Well, I thought he looked pretty good in the mugshot after he was staying at the Latah County Jail. Now, I don't know how this jail is, but I thought he looked better than when he was arrested, or at least on those selfie photos where he looks very thin. Let me back this up. He looks very thin in this this one. I mean, very thin, very gaunt. And then on the let me pull it up real quick. Let me see his mugshot. Let me just pull it up just to compare it. So you guys, we can get a comparison. He got a new mugshot. Here it is. Okay, so let's look at this one together. Let me take this down. All right. So this is what he looked like. So this is after he was this was taken right when he arrived at the Ada County Jail. So I think he looks better, in my opinion. Let me know if you have a different take on it, than he did when he was out. Like when he's here, I don't think he looks that healthy in this selfie that he took. I think he looks very thin. But if you have a different opinion, that's okay. We don't all have to agree. All right, so let's continue on. Susan says, welcome. We're glad you're here. It's me, Mike says. Top Cat, yeah, his dad knew about the shooting that morning in Washington. They were in Indiana. He was looking at the news on their drive home closely. Yeah, they did. He did know all about the Bryan Kohberger standoff. Guadalupe says he was checking when lights in Maddie's room turned off. I think you're right. I think Xana was up. And people have asked me, somebody asked me today if the lights were on in the house when he went in. I have no idea. That's such a great question. I don't know if the lights were on or off, or if Xana was up eating Taco Bell from DoorDash. So I would assume that there would have been lights on in her room, but maybe she just had the TV on and just was sitting there with the TV light. We know she was watching TikTok videos. So maybe she was just, Ethan was asleep. Maybe she was just quietly watching TikTok videos and on a tablet or on her phone and didn't have any lights on. Great. That was a great question. Micro says, I didn't realize Attorney McSmiles was so tiny. She always is smiling. I don't know why she smiles so much, but she always is smiling. She said, so Ted Bundy's mother believed he was innocent and also testified in Florida court. Christine said, thank you for your comment. Yeah, Brent Kopaka is the Army guy. Adrian says, BK probably put the knife in clothes where Bundy left his first. Oh, in that state park. Okay, yeah. So a lot of you guys have talked about that state park, the Wawa Park, I think it's called. I hope I'm saying that right. And that they, that was a hat tip to Ted Bundy. Kat Keeps said, I think he had plenty of time to do what he did. Roger says Kopaka has an alibi. Jennifer said it was absolutely waiting for lights out when he made entry to the house. Very deliberate. Dab says the new background looks great. Love it. Thank you so much. For those of you that don't know what Dabs is talking about, it is this background. So thank you. Thank you for that. CO says, I bet he saw the DoorDash car and wanted to wait until the DoorDash left the area. Yeah, let's keep it professional. Thank you so much, Donna. I really appreciate your modding today. Thank you. Crafty one said, I think he was trying to beat Ted Bundy's time. I'm wondering the same thing. Lights out, Mike thinks. Roger thinks BK did it. Leslie, thank you so much for modding. This is our other head mod, brother Mike. Leslie, thank you for modding. Really appreciate you. She said, I think he was circling to get his courage up. I think you're right, Leslie. I think that he was circling the 5 times of the neighborhood, just mentally preparing himself that he was going to do this. And I think that, when he was circling the house, I guess the big question is, did he know that the DoorDash delivery occurred? Or was he, to the back of the house when the delivery happened and didn't realize that Xana was up eating food? Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Waiting for the lights to go out. Cindy, that's what Deborah thinks. Cindy said, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. I don't care how they dress him. Brother Mike said, I have a Winco. Nice store. I've never been in Winco. Donna said he saw the DoorDash. You think so? Thank you for sharing that. I think they would have at least passed each other on the road. Kami said, I remember Pappa Rogers saying on Facebook that why go early when you can wait for lights out? That stuck with me. He was waiting for all the lights out to sneak up, but did not think Kaylee would be in the same room with Maddie, in the room with Maddie. She's got it down here, the rest of it, in the room with Maddie. That's a great theory. That is a great theory, Kami. Micro says, I think he was circling, waiting for lights to go out. All right, so it sounds like we're like pretty much in the, Christy agrees with you, Cindy. Thank you for modding today, Christy and Kami. Thank you so much, you guys. And Jazz says, please remember Bryan Kohberger did not know Bryan Kohberger. He is a fallen hero. His name does not need to be mentioned. No, he was served honorably. He served in Afghanistan. He got a Purple Heart. So, he's been dragged enough. And, and that's in part, in my opinion, due to the gag order, that anything could be attributed to anybody. Michelle said, my husband took a beach photo of me and others were in bikinis and one pieces, no different than the frat party photos. Well, I guess, definitely, that's why I said I thought that one was kind of a wash, that it could benefit. It could be framed either way. I guess it'll just come down to, did he have pictures of the victims on the phone? If he didn't, then, it could be framed either way. So I agree. I think that's kind of a wash. I don't think it really benefits the prosecution, which again makes me wonder, how would the prosecution really have benefited from the Dateline leaks? But was it a disgruntled law enforcement officer or someone who just thought the gag order was too broad? Mike said, I bet he thought 3:30 was going to be it. He had to stall 30 minutes. I think it was the video captured around there helps the case even more. Dab said he did it over and over in his sick head thousands of times. Outdoor Girl says, but Ann Taylor took on another, dealt the sentence. This caused delay on going to trial. It was her choice. Yeah, she took on another capital punishment case. You're right. That's a fair point. I do think that's a fair point. It was up to her. It was up to her what she wanted to do on that. Christine, thank you so much. She says, great. Christine Isabel says, great channel and commentary. Thank you so much for your encouragement. Thank you for your positivity. Really, really appreciate that. I do really try to bring you guys credibly sourced information. This doesn't mean we don't do some speculation, but I try to let you know when I'm not speculating. Obviously, this is a journalistic channel, so I do use journalistic sources. Shannon, thank you so much for the $5 super sticker. Shannon says, I wish we could find out if he's Pappa Rogers. It's Pappa Roger. It's pertinent. It is, because the Pappa Rogers account, you're right, would be a hat tip to Elliot Roger, right? A lot of people think that it is him. Let me know if you think Bryan Kohberger is Pappa Rogers in the comment section below. Simone said, it's time to go to trial. If he's innocent, then let's hear it. Unreal. Yeah, I agree. I think let's get the show on the road. Let's get this case to the trial. I am with you, Simone. JJ said, I was in Bundy's car. What? I was in Bundy's car with my best friend. Long story, but I outsmarted him. We didn't know who he was, but that knowledge would have changed anything. Wow. You're not seeing all the comments? Are you seeing me flash them on the screen, pixelated? And we can see you pixelated, so I'm not sure. Yeah, this is our other head mod, 6 Amelia. So we can see you. And I do want to do a shout out to Mods Are Us. Thank you to our mods. We have 6 Amelia and Jazz, and I saw Brother Mike in here. I'm looking for Brother Mike real quick. But thank you to, there he is. Brother Mike says BK is Pappa Roger. Thank you to all of our mods for modding today. Make sure you say thank you, please, if you don't mind, just letting them know. Show your love and support for them. Kay and mine said the DD bag in the kitchen the DoorDash bag would have been seen from the day, could have been from the days before. We don't know. Seems like college kids would bring their food to the bedroom. Well, we're wondering, this is my theory on this. I'll just share this really quick. So this is my theory. It's just a theory, so speculation warning. But what I think happened, and I just love that you brought this comment. Okay, I appreciate it. So this is what I think happened. I think that the perpetrator entered the house through the patio doors, and that he went straight upstairs to Maddie's room. And I don't think he was expecting Kaylee and Maddie to be in the same room And I think that he was able to do away with Maddie fairly quickly because she was intoxicated. We know that that's going to be brought out in the trial, how much drinks that she did have. But we know that Kaylee was trapped between Maddie. The perpetrator came in the door, and Kaylee was between Maddie and the wall. She was trapped there. That's what her parents have told us. And the perpetrator, I think, lost the knife sheath in that struggle. And then I think that Santa, I think he would have left the patio doors open because he would have understood from the how-to essay not to cross-contaminate. So he wouldn't have wanted to close the patio doors for two reasons. One, he would have added additional DNA contamination to the patio doors. And two, it would make it easier for him to escape if he had to run out quickly if the patio doors were open. So I think Xana came out with her DoorDash delivery, or because she heard some noises, I don't know. But my theory is that because that DoorDash bag is sitting up on the sink, maybe she brought that out to the sink and she would have felt the cold air from the patio door, hit her. It was November. It was Idaho. And somebody called out, there's someone here. I think it was Xana that maybe called out, there's someone here. This would have sent the perpetrator running back down the stairs. I think he chased Xana back into the room and did away with Ethan and Xana. I don't know the order there, but that's what I think happened. Let me know if you have a different theory on what you think happened that night. But that is my theory. Well, guys, I think I am going to just say thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. It's free and it helps me out a lot. And I'm heading over to do a live stream on the missing case of Lily and Jack Sullivan, who disappeared from Nova Scotia, Canada. Very, very heartbreaking case. The first time that we've covered it here on this channel, I was really hoping that they would be found. Unfortunately, they haven't been found. If you're watching on another platform, please come on over to YouTube and help me out and subscribe to the channel. It's free and it does help me out so much. Thank you to all of our mods and to all of our subscribers and to all of our channel members. And I will be with you again in 3 days for another Bryan Kohberger Idaho live stream with more breaking news. But maybe sooner, if there's breaking news, I'll be coming live to you just like we did today with new information. So make sure you hit the notification bell and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss breaking news in this case. I will see you next time.